A big thanks to Brabura by Hearthstone Outdoor for sponsoring this episode.
I'm gonna sear this steak inside out and I'm gonna show you exactly why and how. This is the side of a cow. In other words, the flank steak. So it's the part that sits right here. In the Netherlands, we call it buffet. I think that's more of a French word, isn't it? We stole it again, just like umbrella, parapluie. Parapluie, trottoir, toilet. Portefeuille. Let's take a closer look at it. This is a flank steak. It's a beautiful steak with a good amount of intermuscular fat, and when you cook it up, it tastes freaking delicious. But there is a problem with this steak and the way that I'm going to cook it. If I look at the thickness, it's not particularly thick, but it's very uneven in thickness. So to get everything cooked to perfection and to get as much flavor on it, I have to perform a trick. I'm first going to make a stuffing for this steak. It all starts with a good amount of cream cheese. To that I'm going to add some Dutch shredded cheese called Gouda. And personally I think that's the best cheese in the world. I'm going to brighten it up with a little bit of chives, followed by a clove of garlic, some salt, some pepper, and then I'm gonna mix it up until I have one big block of goodness. Let's give that a try. Dutch cheese is really good. Now that the stuffing is ready, I'm gonna present to you the first part of my trick to get this steak absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna take my chef's knife and I'm going to slice into it. Now you can see that this is the thin part and this is the thickest part. And the best steak is cooked evenly, which means we gotta cook the thickest part just as much as we cook the thin part. And that's why I'm slicing into the thickest part all the way until I reach the thinnest part. I'm gonna stabilize my knife on the cutting board so that I'm gonna get a straight cut. Of course, having a sharp knife is very convenient, and that's as far as I wanna go. Now I'm getting to the thin part. Now basically I divided the steak up into 3 parts that are equally thick and are gonna cook equal, and therefore better. The steak is now ready and I'm gonna fire up my flat top griddle, the Brabura grill. So I'm gonna light up 2 of my burners, and with that I'm creating a hot zone and a cold zone to cook on. My plancha, aka flat top griddle, is now screaming hot. I got a little bit of blue smoke coming off, which means we're no longer able to use butter on it because the butter will burn and it will taste, well, not that great. Therefore, I'm going to use some oil, and this oil is a high smoke point oil. I'm only going to need a little bit of it, and that's not going to smoke up. It's not going to burn, and therefore, it's going to still taste amazing when I put this steak on. And I'm only going to cook the inside of the steak. This is going to make it an even cooked steak, and it's going to give a beautiful Maillard effect, which means flavor. I just want to give this steak a little bit of time to warm up, to build up that beautiful crust. I'm just going to press it a little bit with my spatula, and therefore I'm going to have most of the surface of that steak touch the grill and build up a crust. As you can see right there, a little bit of that crust is building up on the flat top griddle, and that's why you use a spatula. You push it down, you scrape it underneath, and that way the crust will stick to the meat and not to the flat top grill. And the reason that we're using oil is to just give it that little bit of frying agent. A little bit of extra oil underneath the steak is going to make it work its magic. Once I can see the browning on the outside, I'm going to take it off because I got flavor and I got color. Turn it around, put it on the plate, and look at that. Wow, that is one good looking steak. And this is only the inside. We haven't even started working on the outside yet. And now I'm gonna use this steak and stuff it with the stuffing that I just created. I'm gonna spread that out, and that rich and creamy stuffing is going to melt and be delicious inside my steak, making it rich and creamy and turning it from a steak into a whole meal. Now it's time to fold the steak back and close it up again. Now I know this looks like a weird steak at the moment, but we got this piece that is completely raw. And this is just as thick as the raw outside without the stuffing. The whole idea behind that is that all of the steak that now still needs to be cooked is evenly thick and therefore cooked in the same speed. So back to the plancha with a little bit of oil over that hot plate, and on goes the steak. And I'm just going to let that steak sit here. In the meantime, I'm going to use the other side of that steak, which is a little bit colder, to make some side dishes. And because it's colder, I can use a little bit of butter, which is going to be more flavorful, but still won't burn because of the colder temperature on this side. In the meantime, I chopped up 2 red onions, which now get a chance to turn soft on the griddle. And in between the steak and the onions, I'm going to put the bacon. That's going to need a little bit more heat. Let's check on that steak, see how it's doing. Oh, we get a beautiful artifact, so that means it's time to flip. There we go. Look at that. That looks so good. Oh, the cheese is starting to run out. Don't worry about that too much. It's going to build up a beautiful crust on the plancha. And the bacon now is starting to turn nice and brown, so it's time to add the onions to the bacon. And I got one last addition to my topping, and that is mini mushrooms. And the thing that mini mushrooms do is soak up all that bacon grease and all the onion flavor. It's just gonna be like a sponge. Just wait until you see what that looks like in the end. And as you might have noticed, I haven't used any salt yet. That's because I have salt in my cheese that's sitting in my steak. I have salt in the bacon. So if I would have added more salt to the steak, it would have over-seasoned the steak. So I'm just not gonna touch any salt today. And that's saying something. I always do loads of salt. I think that steak is about done right now. Time to take it off. It's time to plate up. A beautiful plate will make all the difference. The steak goes on. You think this bad boy is about done, but I got one last trick up my sleeve. I'm gonna be cooking my mushrooms even further under this lid, and at the same time, I'm gonna use some beer. Cheers. This is a dark ale, and I'm gonna use it to steam the rest of the ingredients. Flavor, flavor, flavor. Adding flavor to this dish, making it something extraordinary. And once that beer caramelized, it's time to put it on the plate. One big happy family of flavor on a plate. Oh. I know what you're thinking. I need that. Yes, you do. Make it. Try it yourself. Let's take a slice out of this. Oh. Take a look at that. Let's get some of that onion, mushroom, bacon. Big bites for big boys. Even een stukje?